Good morning YouTube, and welcome back to my workshop on this very special day. Why is it a special day, I hear you ask? Thanks for asking, says I. It's a special day because today my new bandsaw arrives. And here it is, my new bandsaw. Look at it, it's an absolute monster. Apologies, I didn't manage to get any video of us bringing it in. It was a bit of a cross between Laurel and Hardy and the Keystone Cops. We've a couple of obstacles to get out to the workshop and it didn't put me in the best light, so I didn't video it. But anyway, we're here now. So a couple of small issues to overcome. Number one, I've got to get it off the pallet and I've got to turn it this way, so that it's laying on its flat side, its narrower side, to enable me to stand it up, because there's only about 3 inches, 4 inches above the top of this to the ceiling. I've a very low ceiling. I'm 6'4", 6'5", and as you can see, there's not a lot of room. No, I'm more like 4'6", 5'7". There's not a lot of room between me and the ceiling. And this is a shade taller than me, so it's really only a just fit. And when it goes over in its destination, there's hardly any room at all. There's 20 mil above it, so everything's quite tight. But I'm really looking forward to getting it in. So see you in a tick. Stage 2 in place. Stage 1 being getting it off the lorry and into the workshop. Stage 2, getting it off the pallet, tilting it, standing it up and getting it over here. So I've still got a few jobs left to do. I've got to connect up the dust extraction, fit the blade, set the ceramic guides and tidy the workshop up. The old bandsaws, I'm just going to have to work around it for a bit because my brother-in-law is going to have it and he's not quite ready. We're dealing with a small damp problem that should be rectified in a few days, so I'll just work around that for the minute. So I'll get those bits sorted and then I'll bring you in a little bit closer and we can have a look at the quality of the machine, the build, fit and finish, the adjustments, capacities and the specs. So on to the specifications of the beast then, and it is a beast. So it stands flat on the floor, no feet, 1,995 millimeters tall. At its deepest point, it's 829 millimeters wide and 454 millimeters deep. And the whole thing weighs in, wait for this, at apparently 250 kilos. And I gotta say, it felt like every single kilo of it when we brought it in. The table size, 640 mil long by 500 mil wide, with maximum tilt of -10 to 45 degrees. So now the two all important measurements: maximum cutting height 410 mil or 16 inches, maximum rip capacity 480 mil or 18 inches. That's massive. Maximum blade width 25 mil on a wheel diameter of 500 mil. The motor on mine, this is a single phase version 240 volt motor at 2.5 kilowatts, and apparently it generates a noise level of 84 decibels. So I mentioned just now that I've been through the machine setup, so let me show you the inside of the machine. The wheels are really substantial, solid cast iron, I believe. So to replace the blade, this machine did come with a blade, which is not normal, but this was an ex-demo. I believe I mentioned that earlier, which is one of the things that pushed me over the edge to actually press the button. That I got a quite attractive discount by buying an ex-demo. So anyway, blade change. There's a little extra safety cover there that you undo, and then you slacken off tension on the blade and the blade comes out through this slot down here. On my old bandsaw, the slot was over here, which meant you had to bring the blade out a bit past the guides and then turn it around and bring it out, and it was a bit of a faff. So this one was a lot easier, actually a bit of a walk in the park in comparison, to get the blade in and out and then put a bit of tension on, get it all lined up. Positioning for this blade, you see the screen covering on the wheel, the protector, the anti-slip layer that's there. The teeth of the blade sit just in front of that, as opposed to, again, my old machine where it was slightly humped in the middle, so you brought the teeth just over the centre of the blade. Now, if you've never seen ceramic blade guides before on a bandsaw, and I hadn't, here they are. So there's the little ceramic guides, and they obviously sit back behind the teeth of the blade and just on the blade, and they literally just don't touch the blade. There's the slightest bit of movement there. I don't know if you can see that or not. Real tiny bit of movement. I have no idea whether ceramic guides are better than bearings. Every bandsaw I've had in the past has had bearings on it, so this is really new to me. And I've got to say, they were a bit fiddly to set up, because this horseshoe shape pivots on this bolt here, so it's quite easy to get the bottom touching the blade and not the top. So like I say, a bit of a fiddle, bit of a faff. No idea how long they're going to last, what the wear is going to be like on them, but I really don't intend to be changing the blade that often, so I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue. And then, as you can see, we've got exactly the same setup down here underneath the blade. Far smaller guides, but still the same ceramic. And there's also at the top as well, I forgot to show you, but there's a back ceramic guide as well. Really don't know how long that's going to last, but time will tell. Now on to the bed itself then. As you can see, the bed is surrounded by these brackets, mounting brackets each side, which I've looked online, and you can get an extension table for, not the cheapest in the world, but should the need occur, at least we've got the ability there. What I also might try myself is making up some plywood extension tables that I could just drop in. The table's got a single slot in it. It's not a standard mitre slot size. It's Felder's slot size. So I've either got to buy their slot sliders, mitre slot sliders in want of a better term, or I could 3D print them or cut something out of hardwood. So, onto the fence. So far, the only thing about the bandsaw that I'm not that enamoured with is the fence, really. It just feels a little under-engineered. To level the fence, square the fence with the table, you've got these two plastic bolts which you wind in, wind out, to get it level and at the right height, and this bar traps the fence itself back against the fence holder, and you slide it on like so, lock it in place, and then lock that in place. I'm really not sure what I expected fence wise to be on this bandsaw, but if I compare that to the previous one, you can see the height difference for cutting taller pieces is much better. It's still multi-positional, as in I can still pop it around, so I can get really close for smaller pieces, but it just feels a little minimalistic, I think would be a good word to describe how I feel about the fence. There's no scale, no ability to put a scale, a measuring scale at this end of the table or on the fence support rail. Not that I ever used it on the last bandsaw, but more a case of there isn't one there if that's something that you'll be looking for in a bandsaw. So down underneath the table to the dust extraction, two ports, one at the very front that can take the dust directly away from the blade and the guides, and the other one right down the bottom of the machine that can hoover up any dust that the first one doesn't get. And also on this machine, on the door, there's this guard here which you can slide up right to the top, which I believe should assist in the dust collection a little bit, but if nothing else, it's there to protect you should you decide for some bizarre reason to try and shove your fingers underneath the table and feel whether the blade's moving. I've no idea why you would do that, but it's an extra safety feature. And of course you've also got the safety, the kill connection up the top, so you can't start the thing unless the door is fully closed. So just before we attempt our first cut, I'll just mention the blade. This blade came from a company called toughsaws.co.uk. I'll put a link to their website and to this blade in the description in the video down below. The blade itself and the company have come highly recommended to me, so I'm really interested to see, one, how well the blade cuts, and two, how long the blade lasts, which is obviously going to take a little while longer. But it's a 3 TPI M42 blade. So on the cut test, which is obviously going to be as much about the blade as it is about the general usability and feel of the bandsaw, I find it's very difficult to differentiate between the two, but I'm going to do my damnedest. So I'm going to start with some thinner cuts on some smaller pieces, bit of MDF, bit of ply, and then I'm going to move on to some hardwoods and gradually get to thicker and thicker cuts. And I'm looking to see, as I mentioned, both the general feel and usability of the machine, how easy it is to adjust the fence, to adjust the height of the blade guides, and also what the cut's like, speed of the cut, quality of the cut, and how straight the cut is, how much deflection I'm going to get with my setup on that bandsaw with that blade. Well, I've got to say, after those few cuts, it was very pleasant to use and it all felt really quite effortless. So in summary then, initial impressions, the damn thing's a monster and it weighs an absolute ton. It seems a very substantial build. Quality of fit and finish, I think, is really rather good, really quite impressive. Good sized table, really good sized table, nice and solid. The adjustments for the blade guides, they're going to take a bit of getting used to. I think primarily because I'm brand new to ceramic guides. I'm used to bearings. Some of these little levers in the back are a little bit fiddly, but not the end of the world. fence all adjusted now, but that again was a little bit fiddly, but that should be a one-time. Dust extraction seems quite reasonable, and power on the motor, really pleased with that, because this M42 blade from Tough Saws, my previous bandsaw, the motor wasn't man enough to be able to spin it at the right tension. This coped with it admirably, and the finish from the blade is really impressive. It's cut through even this 100mm Iroko with absolute ease, effortlessly almost, and it's really not bad at all. So all in all, on day one, really pleased with my purchase, but time will tell. And I'll definitely report back in a few months and let you know what an absolute ripping time or not I've had. Thanks so much for watching, and hope to see you next time. Ta-ra.